Let us continue with our lesson. Since we have created one function to save a user detail in our view model, and let's go back to our login activity. And what we have to do is we need to call that function from our login activity. So in the previously we have just set up the view model.init, and once we get the data back from the server, which is of our login response, here we are checking that if the code is 200, that means we have successfully get the login response back from our server, and it was login was successful. So when the login was successful, we need to save the user data, and we need to move on, or we need to launch a next activity or a main activity. So what I will do is I'll create a private function over here, or a private function, and I'll just call it as a save user data. And over here I need to get the same data over here, I need to get the login response. So I need to pass the login response from, I need to get the login response over here. And once we get the login response, what I can do is I can say a view model dot, and I can just say save the user detail, and I need to pass the login response. And I can observe, because we are passing we are using a LiveData over here. If you check, we are using a LiveData, so which means we can observe on it. So I can just say observe, and owner each of this is the owner, and observer we need to create a observe. Sorry, I made a mistake. OBSER observe. So let's observe the live data that we are getting back from the we are getting a boolean. So what I can say is over here is if it, so if it's true, then we can just go and launch our activity. So if we, I think we have created a main activity, so we haven't created any activity. But if it is true, so if we are getting true value back from the live data, then we should be able to launch a new activity. So what we need to do is we need to create a, let's go to over main, and let me add a new activity over here. So let me add an empty activity for now, and let's just say it as a main activity, or we can just call it as a, let's call it a main activity. Do we have a main activity already? No, I think we already have a main activity somewhere, so I think just cancel it. If you go to the view, and if you go to the UI, and here, okay, so we already have a main activity. So let's launch the main activity. So what we will do is I will just say start activity and intent for, and I will just pass it as a main activity over here. So we are just using Akino extension over here to open an activity, and that should be fine. So this should be called from our, so whenever we have the whenever we get the data and if the login is successful, and I will just over here, I think we just call it as a save user data, and I just pass the data over here. And what it's saying is we found require login response, but found a okay, so I can just call it, pass it as a empty value, or we can just make a check, null check, wrap with the let. So data.let, if it's not null, then we are going to pass the record over here. So what we can do is, I think it's we better remove all of this, the lambda expression, and let us create a sort of lambda expression over here. We can just pass the data over here. So what it does actually is the same thing that what we are doing is, if if the data is not null, we are just calling a safe check over here, and if it's not null, then go and run this function. So if it is null, then it's not going to call this function. That's it. So that should look fine. And the next step is over here. I think we just mark it as a login SUCCESSFUL, login successful. So that's it. I think it should be look fine. So whenever we have a login successful, we are getting the response body and we are calling the save data, and whenever after the save data is successful and we get a boolean of true, if it is true, then we are going to launch the main activity. So that's all for this lesson. On the next lecture, let's go and try it out, and let's go and run and see whether we have any error on it. So let's meet up in the next lecture. Till then, have a great day.